A controversial bill aimed against protesters using masks to conceal their identities has a second chance here in North Carolina. The state Senate originally passed the bill last month before the House blocked it, but on Tuesday, that bill will head back to the House floor for another vote. The idea was that people who cover their faces during violent protests could be charged, but there was no exception for wearing medical masks in public, and the bill faced serious pushback from people with compromised immune systems. Republicans just struck a compromise by adding a health exemption to the bill. It says people can wear a medical or surgical mask, quote, for the purpose of preventing the spread of contagious disease.
I'm not sure it goes far enough. I'm not sure it provides enough protection for people who have health concerns about protecting their health when they're in public. There are a couple of provisions in there, I think, that raised a few questions.
Those provisions included a proposed change to how financial contributions to campaigns are reported. Senate Democrats actually abstained from the vote in protest, saying they didn't have enough time to look at the changes to the bill. Still, the bill passed 28-0. The House decided not to vote on the bill just yet. That's expected to happen on Tuesday.